Coming up on episode 30 of Convergence, there's a question of man versus bear. We get into the fertility epidemic, and Brendan has an update on the case. So my cat's a prick.
Oh.
Well, one of them is. The other one's a princess.
Sweet little Angie.
My cat Roscoe. I built him a porthole, so that, and we had this cut into the door so that he could come and go into the studio as he pleases, without scratching the door and making noise. And that's been working great. Except yesterday, he started scratching at the door. And I'm like, buddy, you can come in. And I don't think it was because I don't think it's because he wanted to come in and he didn't know how. I think sometimes he just likes to wind me up.
Yeah, for sure.
He's a troll.
He's just used to,
he's
like,
a dick.
This is what I normally do.
This normally gets his attention.
Yeah, he wants your attention more than passage through the hole.
He can't tell the difference between good attention and bad attention. He just knows attention.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Welcome to kids and humans and animals alike.
Speaking of humans and animals, have you heard about the man versus bear thing?
I have not. Enlighten me.
So this is a debate that's been happening this week, or a question that's been raised, which is, if you were, it's to women, if you were alone in the woods, would you rather be alone with a bear or a man? And
depends on the bear and depends on the man.
Well, this is the thing. The majority of women said bear.
Mm-hmm.
Because even with man unspecified, I think there was a sense that, like, I could probably take my chances with the bear.
Yeah. There's a lot fewer.
Which, of course, set men off.
Yeah.
Because, every man is always able to make it about him.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, it's not, you're not the, it's not, I'd rather be alone with you or a bear. It's, would I, be alone with someone who I have systematically or systemically been taught through society not to fundamentally trust?
Yeah.
That's the point. Yikes.
And also, like, those men reacting so harshly, it's kind of like, well, you're proving the point. I mean,
yeah. Well,
a little bit.
Yeah. Anywho.
Bears don't make rude comments online.
Bears don't try and subtly undermine your place in society.
Margaret saw a bear in person in North Carolina just recently, last week. Yeah, black bear.
Well, gosh.
Black bears are like big puppy dogs. I have good news. The good news is the results are in.
Oh God. Okay.
I
just want to address. I feel slightly uncomfortable about me responding to making this a game because this is your life. So I'm just going to sit here.
Oh, go for it.
Quietly, and I will passively consume whatever you want to tell me in however way you want to tell me.
You can no. Yeah, I'll take anything. You can tell me, dude. Don't worry about it. I mean, I'm already living it. You're not gonna make it worse. That's for sure.
It's already my life, bro.
Yeah.
I chose bear.
Mm-hmm. I've been ordered to pay $37,000 of the $40,000. I lost about 93%. Apparently, it doesn't matter that I helped him for 6 months to do the work himself, giving expert guidance and trade secrets. It doesn't matter that I held his hand and gave him confidence and reassurance in an unfamiliar and stressful time. It doesn't matter that I netted him a bonus of $60,000 from his insurance payout, which he would not have received without my help. And it doesn't matter that we changed the wording from deposit to payment in the contract. I only get paid for what was done post-contract. And he needed help before he was able to sign a contract because he didn't want to commit to something he didn't have all the numbers for. So this week has been me trying to we had a little bit of money saved from knowing that the lawyer bill was coming up. So we paid that to the other lawyer to go towards this fee, and we're working on a second mortgage and trying, we're scrimping back and cutting back on. We were already cutting back a lot, and now we've really ditched the last few minor streaming service. And we didn't have any TV streaming services, but I think Apple Music is the only thing I've held on to now. Apple Music and iCloud are the only thing I'm paying for monthly. But I had a yoga streaming service, and TBM, we even canceled that. And just trying to pay this dude off. I did change my business incorporation from being a sole proprietorship to a limited liability company corporation. But that was post. I had tried to do it pre-contract, but I used a service called LegalZoom, and they fucked it up and created so that I had the company Rockstar Remodel, and then I wanted to make an LLC Rockstar Remodel, just use the same name. And they're like, oh, we can't do that because there's already a business of that name. I'm like, yeah, it's mine. And they're like, well, just give us a name of another company that you want. Just give us a new name and we'll make it under that. I'm like, well, no, I don't want to do that. I want to use my name. So how do we use my name? Because I know businesses change this way, so there has to be a process. So just what is that? Thanks. I sent that back in an email, and I think they used a scraping tool on the email reply, because they were just it's probably just an automated email that they were going to scrape when it came back. And they said, give us a list of the names that you want to use instead. And I replied, oh, no, thank you. I want to use this. I want to use my name. And then it put in my email signature. And so when I replied, it thought that first paragraph maybe was too long and it just ignored it. And then my email signature, Keep Rockin'. It took that and was like, oh, yeah, we can make Keep Rockin' LLC. Boom. $100, please. What the fuck? And there was no undo. I didn't know they did that until it was all complete. And they're like, no, we can't do it. It's already done. It's registered with the state. I'm like, okay. But it's about to dissolve because I haven't reported any thing. So at least I don't have to do anything with it. It's just ridiculous.
Another service that isn't quite like how it's that doesn't quite stack up to how it's portrayed in the podcast ads.
Yeah. I mean, they probably
Next, you'll be telling me that stamps.com is not an effective way to send mail outside of the post office.
Yeah, and Casper isn't a mattress; it's a ghost.
Doesn't matter if it comes in the box the size of a mini fridge. It's just a ghost in there.
Yeah. Why do you think it's able to expand? It's a ghost.
It's a ghost. What is it expanding into? It can't. It's non-corporeal.
And it wheezes. What wheezes but ghosts? Come on, wake up, sheeple.
Oh, my friend.
Yeah. Well, I'm reminded of a story that Ram Dass tells often in his lectures. There's a farmer, and his neighbor comes over to talk to him, and the farmer says, my prized horse jumped over the fence and ran away last night, and I haven't seen him. I can't find him. And the neighbor says, oh, I'm so sorry. That's awful. And the farmer says, we'll see. And the next day, the neighbor comes over, and the farmer says, oh, my horse came back, and 3 other horses in great health came with them, and now I've got 3 extra horses. And the neighbor said, oh, isn't that just wonderful? And he said, we'll see. And the next day, the neighbor comes over and is chatting with the farmer, and the farmer says, oh, my son was trying to train one of the 3 new horses, and ended up breaking both of his legs, and he's in serious pain. And the neighbor's like, oh, I'm so sorry. That is just awful. And he says, we'll see. And then the next day, the neighbor comes over and talks with the farmer, and the farmer says,
oh, this fucking neighbor. I mean, I'm starting to think it's on the neighbor at this point.
The farmer says, an army recruiter came by and demanded that all able-bodied young men report to duty for this war, and because my son has broken legs, he can't go and fight. And the neighbor says, oh, isn't that wonderful? And as you can probably guess, the farmer says, we'll see. It's just like taking everything. There's repercussions, there's ups and downs, there's life just has a path. And this is just one of those we'll see moments. I think it's going to be just fine. It's going to take some time to pay it off. And I got a little bit of a panic when it first came. Oh my gosh, this arbitrator. Not 0 stars. Would not recommend.
Mm-hmm.
They were a week and a half late on getting the results. They deliver it on a Friday at 7:50 p.m. And so like, lawyer offices are closed on the weekend. So the soonest I could even get them any money, if I had it, would have been Monday. And interest starts accruing every day from Friday, from after business hours on Friday. So immediately it's already $9 more the first as it's delivered. Like, I don't even have a chance of not having interest on it. And it's like, I know it's just $9, but like, that
it's not the point.
It's just insulting. It's ridiculous.
It's moronic.
There shouldn't be any interest for the first month anyway. But yeah, then I found out it was $9 a day in interest, and I was like, well, fuck, I want to get rid of that.
Is that compound?
Yeah. But then I realized that that's kind of like, that's about how much interest is regardless. So it's like, oh, if I get this loan, oh, it's about the same. Okay, shit. But at least it'll be towards a bank and not this dude. So, I don't know.
I hope he's listening, and I hope he goes to all the way to fuck himself and back.
I wish him well.
Well,
I hope he gets what he needs.
You do that.
I know. I have no ill will towards him. I think that.
No, do I? I just want him to go fuck himself.
I know.
I don't want bad things to happen to him. I just want him to go fuck himself.
Yeah.
Deep into a trench.
Thank you, mate.
I hope you are listening, and I hope you know you're in the wrong. Anyway, you're not. You didn't. Yeah, you were wrong. Okay. All right.
I agree. Yeah, the only other, so that was one of my 2 major notes for this week. The other is just the fertility epidemic. So I don't know if you want
to. What?
the drop in fertility rates is like really making itself known.
Huh.
And it's both in humans and animals. And
oh God. Oh my God. What is happening?
You know what's interesting is that 15, 20 years ago, I made a pledge to not have kids. There's been activists, and I just saw a bumper sticker for this the other day. Stop having kids. Having a kid is ecologically disastrous. It has so much carbon dioxide is emitted just by having a kid, and over their lifetime, each person is going to contribute so much to global warming and this and that. And I was, a card-carrying member of the liberal elite and was like, yes, I will follow suit. I will not have a kid. Got my vasectomy. That wasn't the only reason I got a vasectomy, but I did do that. Definitely didn't want to have any children with my ex-wife. And also I never had the father bone to really feel like raising some children. Like I needed to sire my own people. I was like, yeah, we could adopt if we need to, and I don't really care. We'll just figure it out. And then I got with Margaret, and she's super motherly, and I know she'd be a great parent. And it kind of also being around her and her being a nanny and into kids and interested in kids and pointing them out and stuff, it got me to see kids more than I ever did before. I kind of ignored them, and then I realized that they're really cute and they're really fun, and it's really fascinating to watch them grow and teach them, and the idea of making a better path for the next generation is really beautiful. And so I got my vasectomy reversed a couple years ago, and that was unfun for a couple weeks, but it was good overall. And during that time, I didn't really think about. I did think about the pledge I had made, and I was like, well, I'll make an exception for me
because my one's going to be a good one.
I mean, that's the thing.
I'm going to raise one of the good ones.
That's the thing, right? That's what we all say to ourselves. Well, I don't know if everybody does say that to themselves, but I have gotten feedback from people that's like, well, no, if you're not the kind of person that we're trying to get to stop making kids. We need the smart ones. You have an IQ of 129, mister. You need to. But now I'm getting more information about this drop in fertility epidemic, and it's kind of massive, and we're in for. There's another, extinction level crisis. It's coming at you from all angles. But this one won't affect us, obviously, but it would affect humanity as a whole over the lifetime, generations or whatever. So there's 4 main areas that seem to be affecting humanity's ability to procreate and reproduce. The first area is plastics. There are so many forever chemicals and just chemicals in general that we are ingesting, that are touching our skin, that are around us. We're breathing it in. And it's not even just pollution, but just the plastics that are in the air and the water.
There was an amazing film a couple of years ago that I watched. I think it was a dramatization, and it was about Teflon, and just how toxic and damaging it is, and it's everywhere. And how the film was like, you're expecting the coda or the static text over the slow walking images and the strings to be like, and then 5 years later a ruling came that said these companies weren't allowed to do this or whatever it is. And it's like, No, it's still everywhere. And it's still really, really, really bad.
Yeah. I feel like that's such a European style ending for it to be a good ending. Like in America, that'd be like, oh, that's the worst. What? Government, get your hands off my companies. You're not going to tell me which pans I can use.
Get your goddamn hands off my goddamn pans.
Yes.
If I want my pans smeared in chemicals, that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Oh my God, Americans. But just use cast iron. Oh my gosh, cast iron is the best. And then you get iron. It's important.
And then you get iron.
So yeah, plastics. And then ultra processed edible substances. I refuse to call them food.
There was a clip yesterday, and I didn't actually watch it because I don't care, but it was about one of these. What happened to Brendan? Did I break you? Yeah.
I just took a big drink of water and I almost got all my words are wet. Oh my God. Because I don't care.
Yes. I always consider that a personal. It's like I have an invisible scoreboard somewhere off screen, and I'm like, Mark 1.
Yes.
Yes, I saw this thing yesterday, and I was like, yeah, I don't care, scroll past. But it was about one of these influencer energy drinks.
Oh yeah.
That's called, like protein or whatever.
Oh my God.
And it was saying, does protein contain forever chemicals? And I was like, don't care, don't drink it, don't want it, move on. But that might have been the first time I came across the phrase forever chemicals, certainly in the thought of ingesting them.
Yeah.
But yeah, please tell me more about our consumables.
Yeah. So like anything ultra processed, they call them UPFs, ultra processed foods. So this would be, like flour that's been, like it's been ground down into a powder. Or you look at an ingredients list and there's anything that you don't see on the store shelf, that you don't.
Yeah, I was going to say, because like flour itself, I mean, you put that through a mill, that doesn't have to be, but it's the
enriched flour. It's the super processed flours that we have now. It's less so in Europe. They have more regulations there, but in here it's just like anything goes. It's not. It's like everything is. So in Europe, it has to be proven that it's safe to be able to be in a food first before it's added. In America, it's innocent until proven guilty, and it's just in the food. And if it starts causing a problem, then you have to pull it out, like trans fats and all these other things. And they're like, oh, I guess it caused a problem. Okay, we can't use those anymore. We'll use this other substitute, which is often worse than the first thing, like sugar. Like sugar's bad. And people are recognizing that, and so they're coming up with all these alternate sugars, sucralose and aspartame, and now other ones and worse. And it's just like those are so worse because the body is then getting told sweetness is coming, and the sweetness then doesn't come, and it freaks out, and it starts causing more weight gain and causing a bunch of other things. And anyways, straying from the point, these ultra processed substances are wreaking havoc on our bodies and our reproductive systems, and it's like we're not getting the proper nutrients. We're filling up on fillers, wood pulp, like just things that aren't food, and our bodies are in starvation mode, and they are like putting on weight as much as possible because they're not getting the nutrients they actually need, and so that they can prepare to make the journey to go find actual food. Like that's the whole point of building up bulk, is like, oh, now I can go a month and through a treacherous area that has no food to go find food, because obviously we're in an area that doesn't have good food. So that's point number 2. Point number 3, radiation. We have so many new types of electronics, and we've got Wi-Fi in all of our homes. We've got Bluetooth on our heads. We've got cell towers. And I'm not like a 5G conspiracy theorist. I'm just saying we have all these radio waves going on, and we have no long-term studies that show that these are or are not perfectly safe for us. And there are we can use radiation in concentration, and it can kill things, or it can, you can be used for imaging, or it can be used for this or that.
I think the frequency is what.
Well, yeah, the frequency, sure, yeah.
I think that's the big player there. All radio waves are not created equal. And so, I have a hard time believing that 125-year-old or more technology, like, as in long wave or short wave radio, is causing us problems. But we know microwaves cause us problems. So it's frequencies. There's got to be a cutoff at which point it's like, and then but then, apart from frequencies, I don't really know what a microwave is. Is it just a frequency?
Yeah, me neither. I really don't know either. And it's just, it's interesting. It's like, it feels like we're playing with low doses of poison, but it's just, how much can we tolerate? I'm like, why would we want to tolerate any of it? Is an interesting question.
Oh, I mean, there is. This thought occurred to me yesterday, and it was in very, very different circumstances or different contexts, but I really started thinking about it. There is quite a lot that we will put up with. And actually, no, it wasn't massively out of context. I think I was listening to the Daily Tech News Show, and there was, as Tom Merritt is often fond of talking about, and it's something that I borrow a lot now, is like whenever a certain generation, usually before us, wants to bemoan a particular thing, we can say, well, actually, you go back any number of decades, and there was an outcry about something else. There was an outcry about novels,
and newspapers, and
and people reading on the train because people don't talk anymore, and so there's always a thing. But it was talking about pollution, and because that is not a new thing. But when people talked about pollution in the past, they were talking about smoke, and stuff coming from steam engines and that kind of stuff. Whereas now, obviously, we're talking about like actual toxic shit being pumped into. I mean, as much as you've talked up a good game about Europe and its regulations, we've got sewage in our waters here. And no, people are trying to hold water companies to account, but they're not doing anything. And so, what was your point about that led me on that tangent? Sorry.
I do have one more bit. Like I've encountered, as an electrician, I encountered a few people who wanted me to do some wiring in their house in a very specific way because they were EMF sensitive. Like they couldn't be around their refrigerator. Their refrigerator had to be on the opposite side of their house from their bedroom because it would bother them. They couldn't have Wi-Fi in their house, of course. They couldn't have a few other things. And even the wiring in the house, we had to make it so that there was like dead zones. There was no, because there's different frequencies that irradiate off just the power lines that run through the walls of your house. And the next step for this guy would be to make his bedroom into like a Faraday cage or something like that, so that he could get a good night's sleep. And the thing is that when somebody has a sensitivity, that's also kind of like a superpower. It's just how you look at it and how you manage it. So he's incredibly sensitive to EMFs. So he can tell when they're there, and it doesn't feel great, but it is something that he can sense. And in my view, I think that everybody kind of, unless he's like a mutant, everybody kind of has that that sensitivity. Is maybe just not being triggered, or maybe we don't understand the trigger, or something to that effect. And so if he is a human being that is affected by EMFs, then I think maybe all of us are affected by EMFs. And so then it's just like, well, like currently we're just kind of managing how much we allow ourselves, or how managing our dose so that we don't notice anything. But even if we don't notice anything, it could still be affecting us negatively. That's kind of my point, and that's what is being kind of shown in studies in terms of fertility.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just to provide a quick alternative perspective, I will read this thing that says recent research has found no evidence that EHS exists. Some scientists think people have negative symptoms because they believe electromagnetic fields are harmful. It's likely that such symptoms are due to underlying physical or psychological disorders. I have made no opinion known. I have read a piece of writing on the internet.
Yep. No, yeah, that is a take. And the last thing that is being in studies showing a cause in fertility decline, which I don't have the studies in front of me. I just heard about it on a few podcasts and YouTubes. The anxiety epidemic, the mental health crises that we're going through, the rise in like causes for suicide. Obviously, suicide isn't a cause for fertility decline, but it is. If people are becoming suicidal, they're not mentally and physiologically in a position where they will want to give birth.
They got other stuff on there.
Kind of the opposite, yeah. And that's spurred on by things like social media and the different ways that we connect and disconnect from each other.
I also think, though, and whatever. Couching. And I've tried to broach this before, I think, on the A to Z of Happiness. I think there is a contagious... I think there is a contagion around anxiety where it has become... There are a few, I will say, pathologies that I think have become fashionable. Not because people think, "Hey, that's a fun thing to have. I shall decide I have that," but because like there's a wave at the moment. I think of lots of people diagnosing themselves with ADHD and autism because certain things about the world don't make sense or are difficult or whatever. And what I think there is, and I think this because I think I've felt susceptible to this as well. So like I count myself as part of this group, or have, that I think you can see stuff about anxiety and think there and sort of end up borrowing some of that. It kind of rubs off on you in a sense and osmosis, and then you end up thinking that you are anxious. And actually it comes back to a thing from when we get into the idea of the three principles, which I think we've talked about before, from not Alan Watts, from it'll come back to me in a minute. Someone said to this guy who had this Scottish welder who had an epiphany. Essentially, someone said to him, "You're not depressed. You just think you are." And I think that is the case with some anxiety, and I'm talking about like the second to third to fourth to fifth degree of people who have watched the YouTube of the TikTok of the thing that's the meme that's got the robotic TikTok voice lady going, "When you have anxiety, POV, you have anxiety when," and then it's this thing, and people go, "Hey, that feels like me," and it's like, no, that's actually, it might just be the general human experience. We all get annoyed when this thing happens. We all dread envelopes that have certain printing on them because we know it's going to be a bill. Like, that's not anxiety with a capital A. That's called having a life and living the life and the world being, somewhat whatever.
We all experience anxiety. We don't all have chronic anxiety.
Yes,
yeah.
We all get anxious from time to time. It's very different from being in your flat, hearing the building door open and hearing steps approaching your flat and feeling terror and sitting paralyzed, watching something and then not able to watch it, not able to consume or think, and just sit there in fear about which you don't know, other than you're scared that someone is walking up and might leave a pass, might leave a slip of paper that then means you've got to pay some money or do something or leave your flat or whatever. That's anxiety. And that doesn't come with a funny meme. And so I think, while I think there is anxiety, I think we also have a tendency. And also, actually, I read a really interesting thing a couple of years ago about, like, we are in some ways being subtly gaslit. Like, we are, or gaslighted, actually, I think would be the correct term. Because it's not that there is this anxiety epidemic. It's that people in power are shitting on us and making it's not that there's this like growing from the grassroots. No, actually, bad things are happening to people and it's making them feel shitty, like just normal person shitty, because shitty things are happening because there's not enough money at the moment. People are struggling. Like, there's actual things happening, and that is happening at a more top-down systemic level. It's not rising from the ground like an anxiety fog. It's actual repression. And I think that is something I buy a lot more, and I find a lot more solace in, than this idea that this sort of nebulous, I have capital A anxiety. I
agree. I agree. But the thing is that we are facing that oppression, and we are facing everybody is experiencing the news of the world, like it's which is not something that we're built to. Yeah, we're supposed to know our tribe. We're supposed to know, like, the 50, 100 people around us, not the 8 billion or whatever it is now.
There is a thing happening. There is a very big thing happening in the world at the moment, and I might get, not just cancelled but deleted from the internet for saying this. I have no engagement in it. I don't not care about lives that are being lost. Of course I do. But I do not have any, I do not know or care which one we're supposed to root for today, because it feels like it changes and I don't know. And it's not my fucking business. Like, that's how I feel about it. And I'm sorry if that makes me, some sort of bad person because I'm not supporting whatever. Like, I don't know who I should free or who I should not free or who I should, whatever. Like, I don't know. And it's not my fucking business.
You're a good person. My vote's for ceasefire. That's,
sure. Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Just fucking stop it. That's my, like, every time I hear this, my gut goes, just fucking stop it. But I know it's not that simple. I know that. I've got, not only is it none of my business, it's none of my business to fucking even expound on it because it's so not any of my business. I have no business really having an opinion because it's not my business. And yet the news tells us it's our business, and it fucking isn't. And actually, a quick addendum to that. That's not also saying, by saying that, I'm not suggesting that if there are people in need and are suffering that we don't go and help them like that. But that's a humanitarian thing. That's a different thing.
Yeah, that's completely different.
But none of our, anyway. Hey, I've been watching Monk. and it's got such a great theme tune, and it was written by Randy Newman, and it's so good. What's kind of weird and bizarre is how prescient, how relevant, how cromulent this song is to our living situation now. I'll read you the lyrics that are in the actual, because it's a full song, but the TV show only has a verse, as you might imagine. This came out in I think the series was like very early 2000s, like maybe 2003 or 4. So yeah, so bear that in mind. And we have the it's a jungle out there, disorder and confusion everywhere. No one's actually. I want to sing it. No, I'm not going to sing it.
I want you to sing it.
It's a jungle out there, disorder and confusion everywhere. No one seems to care. Well, I do. Hey, who's in charge here? It's a jungle out there. Poison in the very air we breathe. You know what's in the water that you drink? Well, I do, and it's amazing. People think I'm crazy because I worry all the time. If you paid attention, you'd be worried too. You better pay attention, or the world you love so much might just kill you. I could be wrong now. I don't think so, because it's a jungle out there. It's a jungle out there.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's a fucking great song. But that's 20 years ago, and the point being, the guy about whom the song is written is we wouldn't say crazy, but is what we would have called, what American TV shows would have called 20 years ago crazy. He's a germaphobe. He's got it's not formally called out in the show, but it's what the writers' room at the time understood about autism and what they understood about OCD.
It turns out all those people with the cardboard signs that we called conspiracy theorists and stuff, we should have been listening to them all this time. That's what I'm learning.
It's just, yeah. It's it's funny because it's terrifyingly true.
It's not unrecoverable. We can all choose to make different choices. Gulp.
But this sort of takes me a little bit back to the thing I was thinking about, how much we are prepared to compromise or to put up with for an easier life. And I wonder how much that is just down to, our brains always want to take the easiest path. That's, because it conserves energy and stuff like, so they always want to take the neuron pathway that is most trodden and that kind of stuff. And so I wonder if that's a contributing factor, but like, it does seem we will put up with a certain level of like, this word has turned up in software, but I think it applies to lots of things. Enshittification. We will put up with quite a lot of enshittification before we actually, like, I was going to say do anything, but like, what do you do? You talk about LegalZoom. You pay for a service and you email, and actually what's happening is you're not talking to a person, you're talking to a bot that's scraping and it's looking for the most right answer. And I've been caught in that before, where I've assumed that it's a person and they're just not reading the email properly. Much more likely, as you said, that it's actually just a scraper and it's trying to find the, and what do? We go, well, I guess that's how this service can afford to run, and we just accept it. And it's like, because so much of our life is a shrug followed by what are you going to do? I got into it, not into a thing, but like I had a discussion with my mum, because my mum can be quite black and white about certain things. And there's a thing, I bet you've experienced this as well with Amazon, and it may be the case with other, probably not proper courier services, but like Amazon, who famously, well, we'll get to that bit. I live in a block of flats. It's only a small block of flats. There is a common area in which anyone can enter, and then obviously things is locked from there. There are certain times, and it's more often than not when an Amazon delivery driver will drop it in a parcel in the common area that's for me. And they won't walk up the stairs to, ring the doorbell. And, some will, and then, some won't. And there's the bit of my brain for a while that was like, bloody lazy people, blah, 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 blah. But then there's another way of looking at this, which is also understandable when you look at the business practices of companies like Amazon, who push their people and squeeze them as much as they can. And this is where I got into it with my mum, because she was like, there was a parcel left for you at the bottom of it. That's ridiculous. And I'm like, well, to be honest, I think a lot of the drivers, they have ridiculous deadlines to meet. And so in order for them to get their stuff, because they'll be, punished is the wrong word, but, they won't get their whatever. They might even not actually make what they deserve if they don't get their quota of parcels delivered. And so actually it's far easier. Just run up, sling it in the common area. I don't have to look for whichever number it is. I don't have to go upstairs. Just sling it there, and I can get it back, and I can crack on my route, because I might have been delayed for any number of reasons anyway. There might have been, traffic and all sorts of things. Something could have gone wrong with my van. Probably would have been, Amazon would have held it as my responsibility. And so, I just go on. And it's like, you have to accept, like, I choose to accept that, because it shows a little bit of compassion to, my fellow person who has a more menial job than I do, who doesn't make as much money per hour than I do. So it's like, the least I can do is extend a little bit of compassion and go, you're probably up against it. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. But then there's the others, my mum is more of a like, well, that's unacceptable. And I was like, well, you sort of have to accept it. But this is the problem. We have to make these concessions, because it starts at these small grassroots. It starts with the individual driver, and you're like, I don't want to shit on that person, because they're being shat on as well. Like, ages and ages and ages ago, I've only ever traveled first class on a train once, and I did this because it wasn't much more of an upgrade. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to do it. I've had a weekend. I've been trying to whatever. I'm just going to sit in this nice quiet compartment, mostly on my own. I'm going to sit and I'm going to watch my iPad, and it's going to be great. And I'm just going to be undisturbed, and there's going to be very few people in there, and they're all going to be nice and quiet and respectful and with first class. And then this guy comes in wanting to charge his phone, and there's the bit of me, the bit that we all have, the selfish protectionist bit that goes, well, he shouldn't bloody be here because I paid to be here. He wants to sit here and he's saying he's charging his phone, but he's sitting here. I've paid for this first class ticket. He's in cattle class, and he's just sat here because I haven't said anything. And I'm like, ugh, ugh. But then the other part of you goes, dude, the whole car is empty. How are you inconvenienced by this? You are not inconvenienced. You cannot live in this world where you just go, it's the principle. Sometimes it's the principle of the thing. Sometimes you go, that dude needs to charge his phone, or doesn't need to, wants to. And it's like, fine, because it's no skin off my nose. It would be different if I was using, if we were sat at the same thing and I was using the USB charger and I needed it. And it's like, maybe that would be a different scenario. Because no, mate, like I paid for this. There's only one I paid for it. That's a different scenario. And even then you can have a question about whose need is greater. There is no question about whose need is greater. I'm telling a story that seems like I'm virtue signaling, and I don't entirely know why. So I will abandon that. But yeah.
It is a jungle out there. I choose bear.
And as ever.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm there.
We're just a couple bears here.
Well, one of us is. You're a bit more of an otter, I think.
Is that a thing?
Yeah. I think it's otter. Is it otter? I think so. Yeah, which is slightly stubbly, not so big in the roundness. Yeah, I believe you're an otter.
Oh, great. I'll happily be an otter.